Most of the conversations about AI right now tend to focus on the same thing, a text box. What it writes, what it codes, how well it thinks. But language intelligence is only part of intelligence. As humans, we're very complex animals. We have language intelligence, but we also perceive, we also interact with the world. This is where your attention belongs. As a computer scientist, I've spent 25 years teaching machines how to see. I'm a founding director of the Stanford Institute of Human-Centered AI and co-founder and CEO of spatial intelligence company World Labs. What I'm going to teach you in this class is to look beyond the hype and the headlines of large language models by understanding spatial intelligence, world models, and how embodied systems are built. Machines don't have independent values. Machine values are human values. Self-empowerment and agency starts with information. It starts with a sense of understanding. It starts also with a path to hope. No matter how sophisticated or complicated or even scary this technology sounds like, I hope that everybody has that agency to want to know what it is, to learn enough about it so that it can empower your life and work, and fundamentally, you still make the choices that best suit your life and your work in this AI era. The choice is ours. The moment is now, and the future is worth building. I'm Dr. Feifei Li, and this is Masterclass. My early childhood is filled with memories of curiosity. At the beginning, that curiosity was more embodied by my dad. He is not a traditional dad. He doesn't walk into the door at the end of the day with the seriousness or the gravitas. He actually is a dad who loves bugs, who loves nature, who takes me out for walks or bring home a armadillo or, whatever he finds. And that really instilled a sense of curiosity in a very playful way. He didn't do this for any purpose. He wasn't even doing it to entertain me. He was just having fun himself. And that was really the budding seed of curiosity in myself. Technology, as we commonly understand, is an artifact of curiosity and human building, human creation, and so many human decisions are made along the way of development of any AI technology or any AI system. The values that come into this entire process is often missing from the public conversation about AI. Today's AI conversation in the public tend to swing on two extremes. One is total tech utopia, as if technology can do no wrong, that we should just go all in 24/7, develop this technology as fast as possible, and put it anywhere we can. Another side of this extreme public discourse is doomsday, is about this technology is going to replace us all. Everything is centered on these two ends of the rhetoric. And that concerns me because as an educator, the one fundamental message I want to give in this class is about your agency in learning and using AI. We hear words like replacement. We also hear phrases like existential crisis, human extinction. that also is implicitly inferring that we're not putting our agency forward. We're letting technology do whatever it does. Technology is a double-edged sword. We can use it for good, we can use it for bad, and I think that's where I would love to see our public discourse focus on how we can use it for good. What we should be asking in the AI conversation is, how can this technology help everyday people? How can we reduce anxiety and increase the sense of empowerment? And as people who might be building AI, it's very important before we deploy anything, we ask ourselves, who does this piece of technology serve? What benefits do we wish to bring to them? Who might this hurt? Who might be left out using or knowing this piece of technology? These are very intentional questions when we are building and deploying this technology, so that it truly becomes a tool of empowerment rather than just a tool of laziness or replacing our agency. One of the biggest progress in the recent AI development is the development of language models and language intelligence. And we are seeing the huge applications of that, from chatting to software engineering to researching and all that. But there's not only just language to intelligence. In order to interact with the world, we use what I call spatial intelligence, which connects perception with action. Spatial intelligence enables machines or humans to understand, to reason, to interact, and to create within different spaces and worlds. We're already seeing a glimpse of the future of the current applications or emerging applications of spatial intelligence, robots, and different embodied AI. For example, we're seeing a glimpse of using drones and robots to do firefighting. We are also seeing robotaxi through Waymo, and also in places that we don't notice every day, our doctors are starting to use AI to read pathology imageries, to do scientific discovery on how to do protein folding and drug discovery using AI. These are all beyond the realm of language. Language alone cannot possibly describe the entire world. Language is a lossy representation of the world. What it can't capture, it drops. I'm going to use a medical example. I work with the ICU doctors. I ask them, how do you assess a patient is doing well or not doing well? And the doctor said, I can do it in 5 milliseconds. He said, I walk into the room. I just look at holistically that patient, how they put their hands, where their feet are positioned, their micro expressions. I can get a really good read about how is the patient doing right now. And there's no language that can describe that holistic visual reasoning process. This is a very compelling example to show how lossy language can be when we are trying to understand the world in its fullest complexity and nuance. So LLMs are simply not capable of spatial intelligence. I've been asked this question about AGI and what it is. Do I think it's here? Many, many times. I come from academia. As a student who entered the field of AI 2 decades ago, what is interesting is that I think the use of the term AGI kind of has peaked. It became a more marketing term than a rigorous scientific term. So I'm probably just going to stick with the word AI. It's fewer letters. I like it. This family of technology will change every aspect of life for almost everyone. This includes our health, our education, our work, our communication. If you look at AI today, the innovation is all happening at the civilizational scale. All of us are impacted by AI, from using the chatbot to the kind of professional assistive tools. The people who are not using AI are possibly negatively impacted. So it is already in our individual life. If you look at our society, our economy, we're starting to see companies' stock go up and down because of AI technology's advances. We're seeing massive labor market potential shifts because of AI. And then beyond economy, we're seeing cultural changes. Parents are wondering about how to have this dialogue with their kids about AI. We are seeing that AI creation, AI expression, AI storytelling are entering our culture in both positive and negative ways. When it comes to civilizational technology, I think every one of us, every individual has a responsibility to ourselves, to our community, and to our society to rise to the occasion. I make an example of let's imagine 150, 170 years ago when electricity was just becoming the budding civilizational technology, right? It must be a very exciting, confusing, possibly even dangerous period because electricity was this new thing. It actually can kill people. It also can cause fires. It can, bring a lot of dangerous things. But what did we do? Collectively, individually, we learn what it can do. We learn to use it safely. We learn to teach our children to use it safely. And as a society, we start to productize around this technology. So, like electricity, I do think that there are many opportunities. We need to look at how we can safeguard AI technology. It might seem overwhelming or unrealistic now, but we have created safeguards on a massive scale before. Cars were a great example, right? Cars were horribly unsafe when they were invented, but they also were really superpowering transportation in a way that horse carriages wouldn't be able to do. Over the course of the years, we have put in so many guardrails. We had traffic rules, we have speed limits, we have seat belts, we have airbags. So we continue to iterate on making cars faster, better, safer. And that is an example of humanity collectively charging ahead. So we need to go through the same thing with AI in our society today. I do get it that right now, the anxiety, the panic of AI is real. It's the unknown, and the unknown feels very uneasy, especially when people with megaphones are talking about robots taking over or machine overlord, or that does cause a sense of panic. As an educator, as a leader in Stanford Human Center AI Institute, what we are doing is really counter to that kind of approach. I think we can find ways to address it, to help people or help ourselves. We cannot have everything codified into law. We should just establish norms. There was a study by members of Stanford HAI Institute scientists during COVID that shows that most of the COVID public health data come from 3 states in the United States: Massachusetts, New York, and California. That means whatever public health implications we draw out of this research will be skewed. So these are things we need to be aware of. So overall, I'm an optimist. Even though human history is littered with mistakes and failures and even very sad chapters, overall, I think that we do use technology for good. In 2006, I became an assistant professor at Princeton and then eventually moved to Stanford. I was a computer vision graduate student, and we were trying to unlock the problem of how to make computers to see objects. Give the computer a picture. Can the computer see it's a cat, it's a chair, it's a dog? It was an unsolved problem in computer vision. And I remember year after year, I was battling with all kind of algorithmic models, right, to try to solve this problem. It dawned on me that there was a developmental fact of vision, which is that we don't teach our children to see the world through an algorithmic language as if we tell them that a cat is a round blob plus another round blob. You just flood the child with visual experiences. Of course, sometimes you guide the child by naming the cat or pointing out the elephant, but the vast amount of data in developmental ages was a critical factor to the learning and the development of the nervous system. So we translated that idea into a hypothesis that AI models need to be fueled by big data. And that concept didn't exist for AI. We had to download billions of images from the internet and then create an online workforce to help us to curate and label and annotate those images so that we can give it to a computer vision system to train, to recognize objects. So ImageNet was conceived and became one of the three major contributing elements of the explosion of modern AI because it brought the concept of big data into AI. And to this day, AI systems are a result of big data, neural network algorithms, and modern computing chips like GPUs. If you think about your daily life as a human being, this morning I get dressed, I hug my kids, I help to make breakfast, I get in the car, I come to work. So much of that is not just language, is how we interact with the world, how we see, how we reason at the moment. This is what I call spatial intelligence. In fact, spatial intelligence is much more ancient. It's much more fundamental to almost all animals compared to language intelligence because language intelligence is more specific to human. In fossil studies, 540 million years ago, biologists observed an explosion of animal speciation from simple number of species to an explosion of so many diverse animal species. And one of the conjectures is because perception changed life. Perception got animals to see and to touch. And with that, animals start to construct a spatial intelligence that put evolutionary pressure onto every species, and animals need to develop much more complex intelligence systems so that it can become more and more successful in nature. Spatial intelligence is a cornerstone of AI and of intelligence. It's the linchpin that connects perception and action to help machines to understand what they see, to reason about what they see, to be able to create worlds, and to be able to enable interactions within these worlds, whether it's the digital creation of our physical world or the digital creation of imagined virtual worlds. I do believe embodied AI is the next incredible frontier coming in this AI revolution. One of the most exciting thing about AI's future is really merging the brain part of our AI, which is talking, seeing, thinking, planning, with the body. This is referred to as embodied AI. We tend to call it robots, but robots are really in many shapes. So embodied AI, in my definition, it can be a small vacuum machine, it can be a humanoid, it can be a drone, it could be exoskeleton, legs and help for patients and all that. So embodied AI is a terminology that encompasses these different hardware form factors. One of the things we're seeing with embodied AI these days is a lot of laundry folding examples. And I'm very excited by that because I'm the one in charge of laundry every week in my household. So if there is a laundry folding robot, I would definitely experiment with that. That would save a lot of time for me. However, the same robot that can fold laundry today, it's not necessarily true that they can pick up a wine glass in the right way with wine inside. I'm not saying they will never do that. In fact, people are making progress. But it's just robotics and embodied AI is a very complex problem, and we are still working on this. Robotic data is much more sparse because we don't have mature use cases of robots yet. Our hardware is co-evolving with our software. And it's right now the cutting edge approach to robotic data is a very hybrid approach. So a lot of research labs, especially frontier labs, big companies, startups, and academia are really trying to tackle this problem of training embodied systems to exist in the real world. And it starts with spatial intelligence. For example, human wearables such as egocentric cameras can give us a lot of data of humans doing tasks. We are also looking at many labs collecting human teleoperated data where a human drives a robot to, cook or fold laundry. So we need more higher quality tailored data. In order to realize the dream of spatial intelligence, we have to create models to do that. And that's what I call world models. Just like language models give a computer linguistic intelligence, world models or large world models can help us to realize spatial intelligence. But the development of world models compared to language models is more recent. So one of the things in spatial intelligence is actually the challenge of data. In language or language modeling, we have an abundance of data because the whole internet is a big, vast data set of language. But with the world modeling, collecting natural data is challenging. We have more our photos or videos. So the the process of turning two-dimensional images into three-dimensional worlds, not to mention worlds you can interact with. This is a much harder problem than feeding words and learning the patterns of words. We have to be clever about how to turn 2D data into 3D outputs. We have to be more clever about how to collect 3D training data so that we can train the world models. So we have more unanswered questions. They're still in the experimental and laboratory phase, whether we're looking at academia or startups or tech companies. We're seeing the glimpse of the beginning of powerful world models we've never seen before. For example, very recently at World Labs, we just released the first of hopefully many versions of our world model called Marble. What Marble does is it can take one simple photo, a photo of your living room or a photo of your garden, and it can produce an entire 3D world around this concept. Our model can allow you to edit. You can say, I want to add a piece of rock for decoration. I can change this to evening. I can change the window. I can add a cottage in the background. And that ability of creating world so that a person or a robot can interact within it is something society has never created before. It really opens a whole new dimension because, just to be a little more philosophical, for the entirety of human history, other than very few exceptions like gaming world, our collective experience is in one single three-dimensional world, which is our Earth. With the world modeling, we can now create so many worlds for work, for entertainment, for training robots, for learning, for imagination. And that's a whole different door that can be opened to humanity. When it comes to simulation data, what I mean is these are the data that are made by algorithms. We're really seeing a resurgence of the idea of simulation, marrying the latest and greatest of the generative AI technology, like Gaussian splat. Gaussian splat is a representation of the 3D world that is very visually robust. If we want to train robots to interact with the world that looks like ours, we want it to be very visually close to the actual physical world we see. You can also put a digital version of the physical robot into the virtual world and train all kinds of scenarios with that robot, because once the world is digitized, it's much easier to change it, to change the lighting, to change the objects, to change the way it interacts. You can add physics to it. So what has happened quietly, in addition to the very salient generative AI progress in the past few years, is that the adjacent field of computer vision and computer graphics is also vastly evolving. AI simulated models can help to create synthetic data for driving, for robotics, for creative usages. And this is just the beginning. Once an AI has learned to navigate a simulated world, the next step is giving it a body. The key challenge is what we call real to sim back to real gap. Of course, we want the simulation and the reality to be as close as possible, so whatever you learn in simulation can be translated back into the real world. That's part of the challenge, and that's part of the work that we're all doing. In AI, whether we're training a robot or we're training a chatbot or we're training any AI system, we need to learn not only from positive examples or successes, we also need to learn from negative examples as well as failures. And that's just part of learning. In the embodied system, AI system such as robot, because it's constantly interacting, it also learns by doing and by failing, by getting stuck. And for example, today, whether it's a Waymo car or automated food delivery bots, you often get into the situation where there is a very special road condition, or just maybe the lighting changed and the car or the bot is stuck. And a human operator behind the scene would navigate the bot or the car around and rescue it out of the situation. And that process is actually invaluable. It's an extra data point to learn from failures and negative examples. So these are all important learning process in an AI system. We're very much in the accelerating mode. We're doing the development, we're productizing. However, the general public is not yet as aware of this technology. But I think that in a few years, we would wake up and realize, wow, this is as powerful as language models, and there is a lot we can do. Perhaps to me, what's most exciting is that so many people are now working on this globally. Human-centered AI is a framework. I think about how we develop AI, how we use AI, and how we share this technology globally with everybody. It can be used to help people, and it can harm people. We can imagine that we use world models to train robots to do all kinds of tasks, whether it's manufacturing tasks or under ocean discovery or climate research or everyday household chores, putting humans centered into the development and deployment of AI is the whole point of human-centered AI. There are many examples of human-centered AI from applications in many areas. We can also empower creators to create all kinds of stories, contents. It's not just about movies or games as we see today. Interactive experiences itself is both learning and entertaining. I imagine education can be fundamentally changed. Kids don't have to sit in classroom and just listening to words or watching teachers drawing on the whiteboard. Kids can have immersive learning experiences that can be personalized for them. Let me show you how values are related to technology. Caretaking, both in the hospital as well as in homes, is one of the most important yet tedious, laborious work. And the stakes are really high, right? No nurse can be 24/7 watching a patient, say if the patient wants to get out of the bed and walk. And that's a very dangerous moment for patients to fall sometimes. If a patient or elderly falls, that often result in severe injuries or even fatality. So one of the work that my lab at Stanford have done in collaboration with Stanford Hospital and the clinicians in medical school is about how we can use AI as an ambient technology to help our caretakers, our nurses, our doctors to pay more attention to patients in need. An AI system that is an ambient sensor coming in as an extra pair of eyes and guardian angel of the patient condition is really useful to inform the caretakers and doctors and clinicians of the critical healthcare moments of patients. So the ideation of this question, the hypothesis that smart sensors and AI should be used to help our patients and help our caretakers and clinicians itself comes with human values. It's the value of wanting to take care of our fellow humans. That very hypothesis has value. Then in our work, in order to train this smart sensor, we need to create a model, and that model needs data. And how do we collect data? Who do we collect data from? And what kind of data do we collect? Another example in clinical setting is actually hand hygiene. We know that hospital-acquired infection is one of the top killers of American patients. And that happens because hospital environment has a lot of germs, bacteria, virus, and often clinicians carry those germs. So World Health Organization and many top health organizations have actually guidelines. But how do we ensure the sustained quality of hand hygiene practice? Patients are very concerned about their privacy. Clinicians and nurses and doctors are worried about bossware, monitoring work in excessive ways. So how do we address these issues? On the privacy side, our decision was to use smart sensors that actually protects privacy. These sensors are called depth sensors. They don't see the faces of clinicians. And we place these sensors in strategic locations, like by the door, on top of the sink. And these sensors can be 24/7 on and help us to monitor and watch the hand hygiene practice. And eventually they could give feedback to our clinicians without building a profile that is potentially punishing to their work. So these are the decisions and conversations we have to have even before building the model. How do we deploy it? How do we make it not scary? When does it turn on? And how do we protect the data? When we transmit the data, do they need to be encrypted? All of these are human decisions, and every human decision involves human values. The two words that associated with today's AI, sometimes they're at odds with each other. One often is automation. The other one is augmentation. And they speak of AI's different aspects of how it can be applied in a human-centered framework. Back in 2016, very well-respected AI researchers were predicting that AI will replace radiologists. And in the near future, all radiologists will become AI. AI will be reading all of our X-rays and CT scans and MRI reports. And it's been almost 10 years. We're not seeing that yet. I think that story is actually a very important and a nuanced one. Is AI going to replace humans? In the case of radiology, we still need a lot of creativity, imagination, and thought process that's still unknown to machines, but very innate to humans to help understand what's going on in a patient's body. And my prediction is we are not going to replace radiologists. But I do hope our radiologists are being superpowered by AI. AI can help them to triage. AI can alert them of certain kind of features to empower and to augment. how we allow ourselves to be empowered and augmented by AI should be up to us. And that's the human agency we need to preserve in the use of this technology. Human agency do not need to be taken away just because we're using a piece of technology for automation. For example, firefighting, we use automated in-body AI to take our firefighters out of harm's way. Robots go into the most dangerous scenarios, but the human agency of how to conduct and orchestrate the rescue process, how to save a situation, what are the decisions to make, all these are part of human agency. AI in jobs is one of the most important, complex, and frankly, anxiety-inducing topic. And I think it's rightfully so because AI as a powerful tool is shifting the nature of some jobs. One of the most salient examples in the past couple of years in Silicon Valley is software engineering. Our engineers and scientists are using AI agents and co-pilots and assistive tools in many ways, and it has changed their jobs. It really did increase productivity. It actually democratizes for more people the ability to code. We need to be thoughtful and mindful. It goes back to we individuals have our agency to learn and up-level, upskill ourselves. But it also does shift economy, and some industry will be impacted more than the others. So this is part of the changing landscape. When we think about jobs, when we think about automation, when we think about augmentation and how to use a piece of technology to help, we need to think about all the nuance and the messiness of where the technology can really make a difference when it comes to automation or when it comes to augmentation, and how would that integrate into the workflow when we discuss AI's impact to our economy, to our jobs. I often try to say that let's differentiate two words. One is tasks and one is jobs. There was a study that was showing that for one nurse shift in the ICU unit, there is roughly more than 150, 200 tasks a nurse does. So that's the messiness, right? So for an ICU nurse, there are tasks that AI can really help to augment their work. But in the meantime, sometimes automation can really help. For example, same nurse. American nurses and doctors spends hours per day doing something called charting. And that's entering information in the EMR, electronic medical record system, the blood pressure, the temperature, the blood oxygen readings. The nurse still have to put them in mechanically. Imagine as soon as those are measured, it's automated into the system. Then we save the time for the nurse. And guess what those saved times can be used for? It can be used for our nurses and doctors doing much more human caring work. And that automation superpowers our clinicians. There are many, many points in that workflow of your work or your hobby that you know could be pain points and could be improved by AI. That's where I would look into the AI technology's help and see if you can find some of these points and make that improvements. As our society invents tools, and AI is the latest one, we also hopefully will grow the global pie of productivity, including the jobs that can be invented because the technology is more powerful. For example, creators, artists, writers, journalists are feeling that change. I know that there's a lot of debate about how AI, is this a tool or is it taking away, including IPs and copyrights of our creators? And I think these are really important questions. We absolutely need to respect these things. But I also see people who now can create with the tools that can empower their imagination. Because, for example, when I see a young child who uses AI to prompt the imaginative world and then take the AI output and start iterating on that. It's so satisfying because they have that imagination that they want to express. They have a story they want to tell. And AI can help us all to become storytellers or creators. So these are potentials that AI can unleash for humanity if we use it right. Using these tools, it's important that we build in our intentionality. For example, I do use AI to help me to write, but how do I prompt? How do I take the AI generated text or passages and improve it with my own ideas and agency? And how do I further prompt to get even better answers and just collaborate with AI in that iterative way so that at the end, I feel I have ownership of that piece of writing or study and it made me better. It has done something together with me that I would not have done it without it. Or it's better than what one prompt will get us. That would be the lazier version of using AI. So I think that intentionality is very important. And this is some of the criticisms of today's AI is that some of the tools don't allow us to build in that intentionality as much as we would like. And that criticism is a feedback from the market to the AI companies. As someone who is creating products as we speak, I actually think about that a lot because I would like our AI tools to help enhance that agency, that sense of empowerment, that sense of control, while lifting the output together with the human participant. The first time I testified in the US Congress was 2018. I was on a sabbatical from Stanford as a professor. I was VP at Google and chief scientist of Google Cloud. And my mom happened to be very sick during that time. She just had her major surgery. And as her only child and caretaker, I was in the ICU with her for weeks and weeks. I remember preparing my testimonial right at the side of her ICU bed. I was invited by the Committee of Science, Technology, and Space to talk about the early impact of AI because Congress and policymakers are starting to pay attention. And it was also around the time the society is having the first wave of anxiety and fear for AI. We were seeing mistakes by self-driving cars, including fatality. Machine bias was labeling people's gender and race in a unfair way. I was debating if I should go. I didn't want to leave my mom because I was also her translator. So if there's anything that happens, I want to be by her. But I think my mom encouraged me, as she always encouraged me, to do what's right, to speak my mind, speak truth. So I decided to go. For a technology as impactful as AI is to human society, it's critical that we have ethical guidelines. And hopefully government will participate in this and support and invest in this kind of efforts. My responsibility as a scientist and educator is to make a positive impact using this technology and creating that dialogue, that communication, speaking facts and truth to our policymakers. I also do think there are groups of people who have outsized responsibility. As the stakeholders of today's AI, those of us living in Silicon Valley and developing it, because this technology moves so fast, the ones that are what we call insiders, who know how to use this technology, who knows how this technology is built, and also are in the middle of building this technology, it's our responsibility to communicate to the public what we know, and without the hype or the doom. Our policy making needs to be simultaneously protective of potential harms and especially to the most vulnerable groups, but also incentivize our innovation, our economic growth, our embracing of this technology to strengthen our country and our children. So there are a lot of policy work to be done in AI. Also, I think we need to empower our teachers. Teachers are the group that I care the most about right now in the middle of this AI conversation, because there's so much confusion. Either people are just dumping all kinds of tools to our teachers, or teachers are so afraid of homework cheating that they're protecting our students from using it. If they can be empowered, if they're not scared of this, if they are not feeling the anxiety of being replaced or being overwhelmed, they can in turn empower our children. Often the most important stakeholders are the future generation. I think they're the ones who will live in the AI era, and we're building this world for them. So stakeholders are everybody. And it does begin with the agency that we need to learn what this technology is about. But learning doesn't mean everyone has to become an AI researcher. That's one kind of work related to AI. Learning means we need to get to know these tools, to learn how this technology works, how it can help us to make our life and work better. In order for AI to fulfill the dreams and hopes of the society and the future we want to live in, as a society, let's try our best to turn AI to the great use, to improve our way of life, to make our healthcare system better, make governments more efficient, make manufacturing more efficient, make our environment better. Every single one of us has a responsibility to guide our society to navigate this AI future. And that was what Human-Centered AI Institute was founded upon. The framework of human-centered AI is how to rein in a technology and guide it so that it's developed to better human conditions. The most meaningful and exciting thing is to create this think tank of incredible researchers and professors and students to come together and try to answer and research and teach this concept of human-centered AI. The Institute focuses on three fundamentals. One is continuing the improvement of AI technology, the cutting-edge technology, by being inspired by human cognition, human intelligence. The second thing is about continuing scientific discovery and application areas of research and development that focuses on human augmentation and human enhancement, whether it's medicine or robotics and climate and many other areas. And last but not the least is by inviting interdisciplinary studies of AI, especially from social sciences and humanities, to help us to understand and predict the social impact of AI. And this is the kind of call to action I would love to see everybody around the world, around the country, embrace this technology with this positive outlook.